There are minimalistic laws within the Quran. Yes? Minimalistic. And they are vague. It talks about prayer, but does not say how to pray. It talks about sujood and ruku, but that's about it. Yes? It talks about wudu, but does not talk about the direction of washing. It was purposely meant to create this variety of readings, because that is the human condition. There is plurality. We all think differently, we all read differently, we all digest differently, in order to allow for that charm of plurality. It was deliberately done that way. Zakat is mentioned in the Quran. The amount has not been mentioned, has it? It's just a zakat. It's one of the most fundamental laws of the Quran. But why was zakat mentioned in the Quran in the first place? Because the state, as a state, has its needs that it has to serve. Any state needs a form of taxation, doesn't it? And no state can have a hard and fast universal law of what the taxation should be, or the percentage of taxation. Yes? Earning tax, income tax, whatever we have. No state can give a firm, uniform, universal law that from the time of Adam till the end of the world, this will be the taxation system and this will be the percentage. Quran has been very mindful of that. And it has left it as zakat and not spoken of it. And in instances where the Quran has stipulated laws, it has given reasons or the restrictions due to which it has to stipulate the law in that way. For example, it talks about two women witnesses to one male witness, and I looked at the women and I said two female witnesses. There's always a bias in the male mind, right? So it says one male witness, and if you can't find another one, then take two female witnesses so that if one were to forget, the other one will remind her. So it's giving a reason there that women are people who cannot retain knowledge accurately. You know, this is why we need two women witnesses, because you could have just paused for a minute and I would have explained. Seriously, now I believe the Quran is right. It's immutable and universal. What used to happen back in the days in that context, men were the people who were responsible for retaining knowledge and this oral transmission. If we read Surah An-Nisa, we will find how the Arabs used to treat women. They used to kill their man and inherit the women. Women were kept childlike. They were never allowed to develop their skills of retention of knowledge. And the Quran is very pragmatic. And in that context, it says, well, these women cannot retain knowledge accurately. It does not mean that the Quran would say the same thing today in the Western developed sort of an environment. So it was pointing it out. It was pointing out this disparity in the law and the reason why. Does that make more sense now? You could have just been silent. And the inheritance law. The Quran talks about in Surah An-Nisa the law of inheritance. Now we know that the Quran sees that women as carers and men as providers. Allah says, بِمَا فَضَّلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. That الرِّجَالْ قَوَّمُونَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. That men have some form of predominance above women in terms of the capabilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given one over the other. The women were not required to earn livelihood. So they were always supported. And therefore the inheritance that came to them was their saving. Yes? Whereas the man had to provide, so whatever that it came to them, they had to spend. That was the model that the Quran used. But if the Quran is to be pragmatic and were to come in today's society where the women are carers and providers, then obviously it would have been stated differently. This is what I'm trying to say. That either God has left the ahkam ambiguous, or He has firmly fixed them, but given a context. And that context brings to mind the reason why God had to fix it in that way. So these ahkam have to be sufficiently vague, or they have to have an element within them that allows for this dynamism, so that they can be interpreted and re-evaluated within the evolutionary, vertical and the horizontal trends. Two, what this suggests is that there is a total state of flux. There are no absolutes. just as this beautiful universe of ours is expanding, unfolding, revealing itself